Chapter 29, Player Discussion. The next day at the Nebula Games office, Lucas handed the finished concept draft, along with design notes for main characters like Johnny, River, Watts, and Neil, to Anna and Rachel. Looking over the concept draft and script in their hands, both Anna and Rachel were clearly moved. But this wasn't the time to get lost in the story. They quickly brought up what was on their minds. "Wait, I thought this was a sci-fi game. Boss Lucas, this whole thing is about love," Rachel asked, clearly confused. Even her tone had changed. "Yeah, where's the sci-fi?" Anna chimed in. Yesterday in the meeting room, Lucas had told them about the game's background. There was going to the moon, memory-altering tech. The two of them had even talked privately about ideas like brain inovat theories, dystopias, cyberpunk stuff. They'd gone all in. And now, with the actual concept draft in hand, they realized they'd been completely misled. This was just a romance story dressed up as sci-fi. How is this not sci-fi? Look at the memory-modifying tech, isn't that sci-fi? We'll just add more sci-fi flair to the background later. Like, for example, the car the two doctors used to get to Johnny's house. We'll make it look more futuristic. But that's not the point. What really matters is that the game touches players emotionally. All right, let's get into work mode. We don't have much time left," Lucas said, clearing his throat. So, meanwhile, online discussion about the upcoming event was heating up. After all, the event date was getting closer. Since it was officially hosted, of course there was official promotion. At the same time, some of the participating game developers were promoting it on their own social media accounts too. But most of the games being submitted were either PC or mobile titles. That was mainly because of the short development timeline. Some well-known game companies like NetDragon were also taking part. Of course, it wasn't their core studios doing the work. Big companies like these usually have a bunch of smaller studios under them. Because of that, a lot of players started to catch wind of the event and began talking about it. "Hey, isn't the sci-fi game contest starting soon?" "Sci-fi game contest? What the hell is that?" "It's that contest organized by the game club a while ago." "Oh, that one, I totally forgot. That contest is a joke. Look at the crap games they picked." "Right, I'm not saying they need to be like Undertale, but can we at least get something decent?" This time's a bit different though. Players can vote too. Before, it was all decided by the higher-ups in the game club, so the games that won were just the ones that pandered to them. So this time it's for the people. Yeah, that's basically the idea. It should lean more toward what players actually like. I'll believe it when I see it. But do you guys think we'll get a ton of meta games this time? Meta stuff been pretty hot lately. Probably not. When the contest opened, Undertale wasn't even out yet. You think Lucas will join? Keep dreaming, look at the timing. If Lucas joins, I'll cut off my Johnny. Dude, that's serious. Come on, it's common sense. During the time this contest was open, Lucas made both Mirror and Undertale. Where would he even find the time to make a new game for this? Holy crap, your Johnny's in danger. Check Lucas's official page, he did join. What, are you kidding me? RIP to the guy's dick, for real. No freaking way, it's actually true. So, Undertale, as an indie game, doesn't feel like one at all based on how popular it got. The main reason is that it really shows what meta elements are all about. And with great sales numbers, it became a rare mix of both art and commercial success. Naturally, it caught the attention of tons of game designers. As for the media, well, that goes without saying. An ordinary game designer made a game like this. What does that mean? It means hype and traffic. People are already speculating about what Nebula Games and Lucas will make next. Gamers and industry folks pretty much agree. It'll most likely be a sequel to Undertale, or at least another meta game. But no one expected Lucas to come out on his official page and announce that Nebula Games is making a special game for the contest. As for what kind of special game it is, Lucas didn't say. But honestly, players, designers, and the media didn't really care. I mean, no matter how special it is, it's still just a game, right? The real issue is time. There's only half a month between the post and the contest deadline. Can Nebula Games really pull it off? From what we know of their past schedules, it's clear this game wasn't something they had prepped beforehand. After hearing the news, a lot of game designers in the industry thought Nebula Games was just messing around this time. Bell, who'd been quiet ever since Undertale blew up, maybe because he was keeping tabs on Lucas, jumped on the chance and reposted the news within 4 minutes. Just because you've had one success doesn't mean you'll always succeed. Too bad some designers don't get that. Treating an official game contest like a joke, I doubt a game like that would even pass the review phase. Clearly, Bell was feeling pretty sour and jumped at the chance to shift attention away from himself. And even though the comments were full of sarcastic jabs, this time he did get a bit of support. I mean, making a sci-fi game for a contest in just a bit over 10 days. That's just not realistic. As for Bell's response, Lucas kept it simple. He posted a screenshot of Bell deleting his own account from before, added a picture showing the ratings and sales of Undertale, and topped it off with a meme. The meme was of the popular bunny character looking disgusted at a clown. Next to it, Lucas wrote, "Don't talk to me, I don't talk to clowns." The moment players saw Lucas's meme, tons of them cracked up. Damn, that's a real burn. No wonder Bell has such a bad reputation in the gaming world, both with players and industry people. Underneath the meme, the comments were full of happy players. Chapter 30, What did I do to deserve this? This is the worst roasting a clown has ever taken. Let's be real, a clown brings people joy. What about Mr. Bell? Come on, hasn't Mr. Bell brought us enough joy? LMAO, thanks to Lucas I found out about Mr. Bell. I was in a bad mood, but reading his old quotes cheered me up. But seriously, I'm still curious what Lucas's new game actually is. It just doesn't sound reliable. Has fame gone to his head? Hard to say, but judging from Mirror and Undertale, I'll believe it when I see it. Doing all that in just 10 days sounds super sketchy. With Lucas's post, a lot of players who had followed him since Mirror and Undertale started talking again. Most people were thinking the same thing, it just didn't look very promising. The time frame was way too short. So, compared to the players, the industry, and the media buzzing with discussion. In the Swordfire studio under NetDragon, a game designer's hands were shaking as he read the news online. Marcus, the lead designer at Swordfire, was working on a sci-fi game called Galaxy Heroes. He was aiming for the sci-fi game competition with this project. NetDragon sounds like a powerhouse on paper, but in reality, it's just packed with tons of internal project teams. Swordfire Studio, which Marcus leads, is just one of them. Not every team gets millions, or even tens of millions, in funding. At NetDragon, even a few million is already a mid-sized project. Marcus's goal for joining this contest was to win first place. Hopping it would boost his status in the gaming world and inside the company, so he could get better resources and more funding for future projects. Everything had been going smoothly, until Lucas suddenly announced he was making a sci-fi game and entering the same contest. That completely messed up Marcus's plans. Not that he was overly worried about Lucas's actual game. Like a lot of people, he didn't think anything good could come out of such a short development time. But the real issue was this. With the massive success of Mirror and Undertale, Lucas was now a traffic magnet. To gaming media, Lucas meant clicks and attention. To players, Undertale was still riding high in popularity, and anything Lucas did would instantly catch their attention. Even Bell's mocking comments were, in a way, just giving Lucas more publicity. So that put Marcus in a tight spot. He had set aside part of Galaxy Heroes' budget just for marketing, and had already started rolling out promotions. But now, all the attention got stolen. There was nothing they could do. Even though NetDragon was one of the top publishers in the country and they were part of NetDragon Studios, the publishing team was run by the operations department, while they were just a separate development group. The operations team wasn't about to sacrifice their own numbers just to help out someone else. Want to use NetDragon's channels for marketing? Sure, since we're technically co-workers, we'll give you a special discount. How about 10% off the usual price? What? No budget? Then why is you even here? Get lost. No money and you still want promo. You think our numbers don't matter? Looking at all the trending articles online, Lucas's new game to join Sci-Fi Game Awards. Is Lucas getting arrogant after making Undertale? Marcus felt his chest tighten. They barely had any budget for promo to begin with, and now it's all wasted. What did I ever do to deserve this? Marcus clutched his chest in pain. Seeing all the back and forth between Lucas and Belle on their social media accounts, for a second Marcus really thought about tagging Lucas and throwing some shade, hoping to stir up some buzz for his own game. But in the end, he stopped himself, not because he was scared of losing, but because he wasn't in the same position as Belle. Belle might just run a small indie team, Flow Art Studio, but at least he was his own boss. But Marcus, he was just a producer under NetDragon. If he went rogue, he'd be screwed. Back in the day, even rebels had to make a speech about how the Emperor was corrupt. If he jumped out and started attacking people for no reason, it might feel good in the moment, but it would be a mess afterward. A public apology would be the least of his worries. What if the player's anger at NetDragon ended up being directed at him personally? What if he also took the blame for problems in other departments? Others would be raking in money, while he got stuck with warnings and punishments. Just thinking about it made him sick. Having the spotlight stolen was already bad enough. If he ended up taking the fall too, that would be a nightmare. But even now, he couldn't help but feel bitter. What made it worse was that Lucas wasn't even trying to target him. He probably had no idea this was even happening. That just made it feel even more unfair. Fine, Marcus thought, revenge is a dish best served cold. Even if it wasn't all Lucas's fault, he still had something to do with it. So right then and there, Marcus started imagining how he'd get back at him. You stole my spotlight, huh? Then we'll settle this at the Game Awards. Let the games do the talking. Honestly, I don't even think your game will pass the screening process, but if it does, I hope you at least win something like a bottom-rank prize. That way the game department will invite you to the awards ceremony. And when that day comes, in front of all the players, game department leaders and reporters, I'll give you the coldest handshake of your life. I'll smile and say I've heard great things, and compliment your game like it's a masterpiece. Staring at the headlines about Lucas blowing up again, Marcus took a deep breath and closed the browser. In his head, he was already playing out the whole scene. Red carpet, cameras, handshakes, a speech. 1 month from now, that would be the day he got his sweet revenge. So, back at Nebula Games, Lucas had no idea someone out there was already planning to get back at him. He'd been completely swamped lately. On one hand, he had to manage the development schedule for To the Moon. On the other, he was doing interviews and trying to hire new team members. He had posted job openings on a bunch of game dev forums and communities. Thanks to the success of Undertale, he definitely caught the attention of a lot of industry folks. The problem was that barely anyone really impressed him. After reviewing all the applications, Lucas sighed and said, "Man, it's so hard to find the right people." He was hoping to hire an assistant art lead to help take some of the load off himself and Rachel. At the same time, they were also planning to hire a systems designer and a level designer. But so far, they still hadn't found any good candidates. Just then there were 2 knocks at the office door. Lucas responded and the door opened. A man in his 30s walked in. Ethan, the marketing manager at Nebula Games. He was in charge of promoting the games and handling business deals. "Boss Lucas, have all the contacts for the team been confirmed?" Ethan asked with a bit of admiration and a hint of doubt on his face. "Yeah, go ahead and get in touch with them," Lucas nodded with a smile. After a few words with Ethan, he left the office. Lucas turned his focus back to the computer to continue working on To the Moon. Chapter 31, First Look at To the Moon. Days passed and the deadline for the game challenge was getting close. All kinds of game developers and companies uploaded their entries to the official game platform. These included mobile games and PC games, most of them single-player, though there were a few online games too. Clearly, some of them were in it to win, while others just joined in for fun. Since they were already working on a project, they figured they might as well submit something. Who knows, maybe they'd win. Once the games were uploaded, the next step was an initial review. They'd filter out anything with serious issues or that was clearly rushed and low quality. This part wasn't public, but even the rejected games would still be listed on the platform. Even with this rule in place, the number of rejected games each year was pretty low. After all, only qualified game designers were allowed to enter, so most had at least some skill. But this year, the attention was focused on one thing. People were wondering whether Lucas's game, developed in just over 10 days, would pass the review. It's out. I skimmed through the list. None of the games were rejected. Holy crap, does that mean the game division actually approved Lucas's entry? So that means at the very least, it's a working game, right? Found it. Lucas's new game is called To the Moon. Sounds decent just from the name. Is it about space or something? The price is really low, only $2. Looks like it's available on both platforms, 2 different versions. Wait, 2 versions? Even Undertale didn't get that treatment. I've got to check this out. What kind of game did Lucas make in just 10 days? As the entries were released, tons of players rushed to download the ones that caught their interest. Of course, Lucas's To the Moon was at the top of that list. So, on the game section of Shark TV's streaming platform, many streamers started live testing the entries for the game contest. Shark TV was helping promote the event, since it was being organized by the game division and had a bit of an official feel, even if they hadn't directly contacted. Still, when it's time to play nice, the platform knew how to show support. Even if they weren't asked to help, the smart ones got the hint. One of the Shark TV streamers, Eric, was aware of the event. So that morning he went live with his stream titled, Trying Out the Game Challenge Entries. Morning, folks. What's going on, man? You're live this early. Damn, did a monkey escape from the zoo or what? Eric's here already. As soon as Eric started his stream, the chat was flooded with all kinds of jokes and teasing. Seeing all the comments, Eric just chuckled to himself. Ahem. All right. Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out one of the entries for the game design competition. Gotta say, we've got a big task ahead. While adjusting his streaming setup, Eric typed in his login info and entered the official game platform. First up, let's try the new game from the guy who made Undertale. Not gonna lie, I've been looking forward to this one. Why? Well, Undertale was just that good. But this new one called To the Moon, I heard it was made in just over 10 days. And the crazy part is, it actually made it through the first round of cuts by the game division. Now I really want to know what kind of game this is. As he spoke, Eric opened the platform and searched for To the Moon. Changing memories, an old guy's last wishes to go to the moon. Man, this is wild. Today, as a proud grown man, I will see what this game is all about. The game wasn't very big, and his fast internet downloaded it in no time. He ignored the sea of question marks flying through the chat and went ahead and opened the game. The game installed quickly. The icon was simple, 2 kids sitting on a log, looking at the moon in the distance. When it launched, the Nebula Games logo came and went. Then a full moon, a lighthouse, stars scattered in the sky, and a few clouds drifting by. The title To the Moon was carved into the moon. At the same time, the camera slowly panned downward. A soft piano piece started playing in the background, warm and calming. Like moonlight, peaceful and still. There was a lighthouse, a grassy field, and a large house near the cliff by the lighthouse. The camera moved into the house, where a girl was sitting at a piano, playing. A little boy was next to her. Then the music changed to a simpler piano melody. If you closed your eyes, it felt like you were standing by a quiet stream in a forest. Say what you want, but this music is really nice. Yup, that's Lucas's work for you. No need to say more, the music is top-notch. Yeah, these 2 piano tracks sound great. Even in Undertale, the music added so much to the game. Not just Undertale, Mirror had really good music too. Caught a gentleman in the wild. Seeing the chat messages, Eric quietly nodded to himself. The game hadn't really started yet, so it was hard to say if it would be fun, but the music was definitely solid. Just as everyone was getting pulled into the beautiful piano piece, a car engine suddenly roared, followed by the sound of a crash. The screen shook a little to match the impact. The camera cut to outside the house, where a black car had slammed into a tree. Two people, a man and a woman, both wearing lab coats, stepped out of the car, looking like doctors. "Where was you looking while driving, Neil?" Sorry, I was heroically dodging a squirrel that jumped out of nowhere." "But still you ran over it, and crashed into a tree." "See, nothing to worry about, it's the company car." "Are you serious? The boss is going to kill us." "Well, let's just say I saved a puppy, he likes dogs, right?" "He's more of a cat person." "Why is the world so complicated? Okay, whatever he likes, we're in the clear." Chapter 32, Why did it suddenly get spooky? As the two scientists talked, Eric could finally access the game's control screen. The simple, slightly sarcastic dialogue stood out. When they walked up to the squirrel, the back and forth between the male and female doctors continued. This game's attention to detail is really solid. The writing too, it's all very sharp, just like Undertale. Every little thing counts, Eric said as he played. For example, when they passed a signpost, they joked about whether it'd get stolen out here in the mountains. The dialogue had a bit of humor, and it made Eric, as a streamer, feel a bit sidelined. This kind of banter, that's usually his job. If the game's already doing all the snark, what's left for him to say? "Is this more of a story-driven game? Feels a bit slow," Eric commented. Aside from moving around and a few simple conversations, the only moment that stood out was when they moved what looked like a rock. Nothing else really happened. Even Undertale had some simple bullet-dodging battle scenes. The only thing that really stood out here was the music. From Mirror to Undertale to this one, to the Moon, the soundtrack had always been great. As for the visuals, Lucas did make some upgrades compared to the RPG Maker pixel art of his previous life. But still, it was just okay, not amazing by any means. While Eric was thinking this, the two doctors, Neil and Eva, arrived at their destination, a large mansion. After they knocked on the door, a middle-aged woman answered. Her name was Lily, according to the intro. She was the one who looked after an elderly man named Johnny. The two kids playing the piano earlier were her daughter and son. After a quick intro, Lily led the two doctors upstairs. Meanwhile, back in the living room, the two kids started arguing over who got to play piano, then ended up sitting side by side and playing together. It was the same tune that played right before the car crash. Was that the game's main theme? That's what Eric guessed. As the doctors Neil and Watts kept bickering, Lily and another doctor filled them in on the main character, Johnny. Johnny was bedridden, in a deep coma, alive only in the most technical sense. According to the doctor, he only had 2 or 3 days left. And Johnny's final wish was simple, to go to the moon. Why he wanted that, though, Lily didn't know. Even though she took care of him, Johnny never really talked to anyone. He was a very odd man. Damn, the old guy, got some wild dreams. He wants to go to the moon, so the whole point of this game is to figure out why he wants to go, and then help him make it happen. A puzzle game, huh? Now we're talking. Brain games are my thing. Eric slapped his leg after going over what they'd figured out so far. He talked to the caretaker, Lily, and got a clue. Basically, they need to find certain key memories from Johnny, then use those to enter his mind and change things to help him fulfill his wish. Since a person's memory spans a whole lifetime, you can't just scan it all at once with the machine, so they need to find memory anchors. Eric left the female doctor tinkering with the machine, while he controlled the male doctor to wander around the house. Damn, this old guy's loaded, this house is huge. But seriously, the guy's lucky he ran into me. Wants to go to the moon. Heck, if you wanted Mars, I'd get you there too. Eric kept chatting as he had the male doctor walk around. On the first floor, he tried talking to 2 kids, hoping they'd show him around so he could dig up some clues, but the little brats told him to get them a candy cane first. Man, these 2 are something else. Whatever, I'm not gonna argue with kids. He headed into the kitchen and saw the candy cane on a high shelf, but the character couldn't reach it, so Eric had to drag over a chair to stand on. Don't get it twisted, I could totally reach that shelf. It's the game's doctor who's too short, not me. I'm 190 cm, man, no way I can't reach a cabinet. What a joke. Seeing the chat messages flying by in his live stream, Eric twitched a bit but didn't stop his banter. 190 cm meant he could dunk if he had to. He gave the candy cane to the two kids and got some useful clues from them. Apparently, Johnny used to go to the basement often when he was still active. Also, the piano piece the kids were playing was one Johnny used to play when he was healthy. Following their lead, Eric found his way into a small room in the basement. It was pitch dark with only a lamp nearby. But the second Eric turned it on, the music in the game suddenly changed. It turned creepy, eerie, and tense. The dim lighting didn't help, and the whole room was filled with paper rabbits made out of colorful paper. What the hell, why'd this suddenly turn into a horror game? It caught him totally off guard. The shift in mood made Eric's skin crawl. The room wasn't that big, it looked like some kind of storage space. The floor was piled with folded paper rabbits. On the table near the door sat a platypus plush toy. It wasn't straight-up horror, but it definitely gave off a lot of psychological pressure. Even the chat was blowing up. This vibe just got super spooky. Don't tell me this turns into a horror game. Spam the chat, y'all, I'm scared. Why are you guys acting like Barbies? It's broad daylight. Eric glanced at the overly dramatic chat and took a deep breath to steady himself, then started searching the room. The platypus plush could be picked up, looked like an important item. As for the game, yeah, the vibe was off. But he had already checked, there was no horror tag on it. It was only labeled as adventure and story-driven. No need to panic, even if it was horror, so what? He was 190 cm and built like an athlete. Was he really gonna let some game scare him? All right, look at you scaredy cats. Let's keep going and see what this game's really hiding. Why does the old man want to go to the moon? What's up with all these paper rabbits? We'll figure it all out soon. Eric chatted with the livestream viewers a bit more and went back to moving the story forward. Chapter 33, full of confusion. While chatting with the two kids, Dr. Neil got another piece of information, that Johnny used to visit a lighthouse near the edge of a cliff often, back when he was still healthy. And Johnny built his house in such a remote place just to be close to that lighthouse. Clearly something going on here. So Eric followed the two kids toward the lighthouse. On the way to the lighthouse, everyone started chatting about random stuff, which made the boring walk a bit more fun. Boy, do you play role-playing games too? Dr. Neil, I do. Girl, he's not cool enough to play those. Dr. Neil, if I wanted to, there's nothing I couldn't do. Right after he said that, the two kids spotted a sleeping squirrel and shouted with excitement. Look, a squirrel. At that moment, Dr. Neil got into a serious stance. Oh no, a scary squirrel monster. What? In front of the screen, Eric was totally confused. Right after that, some intense battle music started playing. The squirrel, Dr. Neil, and the two kids faced each other, and a rough-looking RPG turn-based battle screen popped up. Don't worry, kids, I'll protect you. The two kids looked at each other, shrugged, and gave helpless looks. Attack and defend buttons appeared on the screen. What the heck, this kind of system, why does it feel so weird? Oh my god. Seeing how the game suddenly changed its style, Eric was stunned. He clicked the attack button and 4 skill options showed up. Volcano kick, tornado palm, final blow, shoes. Eric looked completely lost and picked one at random. Then a new option popped up, scream volume. There were 3 choices, loud, louder and loudest. What kind of nonsense is this? What even are these? Eric was totally dumbfounded. He picked the loudest one without hesitation. Your turn is over, squirrel monster. Dr. Neil shouted with all his might. Then the two kids behind him stepped forward. Stop it or I'll tell Mom you're bullying animals. Yeah, she'll call the police and have you arrested. Right after that, the whole RPG UI disappeared. The squirrel looked at Dr. Neil like he was an idiot, then turned and ran off. What the heck kind of twist is this? I was just getting into it, totally got played. At that point, Eric finally understood. This was just a joke scene inside the game that made fun of classic turn-based RPGs. Because in most RPGs, that's exactly how things go. The livestream chat was going wild with comments. Damn, I really thought it was a turn-based RPG. Just got into it and now I'm pulled right out. Haha, I was wondering why the art style suddenly changed. Damn, we got tricked. Lucas is such a troll. 23,333,333. I actually think it's pretty fun. Could this be a comedy game? Haha, maybe. Everything so far has been full of humor. In the game, Eric followed the steps and arrived at a lighthouse by the sea. In front of the lighthouse, there was a gravestone. The name on the gravestone was River Wiles. It's the old man's wife's grave. Looking at the grave, Eric remembered the nanny in the house had once said Johnny had a wife, but she passed away a long time ago. Clearly, this was the old man's wife's grave, but why was she buried in front of the lighthouse? Did this lighthouse mean something special to the couple? With these questions in mind, Eric climbed to the top of the lighthouse. There were paper rabbits here, just like the ones in the basement earlier, but one of them was different. This one was made with 2 different colored papers, and folding it that way took much longer than the regular ones. It could also be collected, and seemed like an important item. But Eric only felt more confused. After going in circles, none of his questions were answered, he just ended up with even more. The lighthouse and the paper rabbits, what did they all mean? Full of doubt, he returned to Johnny's room and started up the machine with Dr. Watts, who was already prepared. Johnny, the old man lying in bed, was about to have his whole life shown to them. But just like before, they needed a link to enter his memories. The goal was to reach the old man's childhood memories. That way, they could plant the dream of becoming an astronaut. With the help of the machine, that dream would become something he held on to in his virtual memories. In the end, the old man would be able to create a fictional future, one where he became an astronaut and landed on the moon, and that would fulfill his final wish. To reach that goal, they had to go step by step through his recent memories, slowly working their way back to his childhood. Before they began, they found a sheet of music by the piano downstairs, for River. It was composed by Johnny himself, clearly written for his wife. Behind the house, the 2 doctors found Johnny, and during their conversation, something strange came up. Dr. Neil asked Johnny why he wanted to go to the moon. But even Johnny himself seemed confused. I'm sorry, but I really don't know. I just want to. Seeing Johnny's lost expression, Eric, like many people watching the stream, was stunned. He didn't even know why he wanted to go to the moon. Then why was the obsession so strong? Could it be the origin of an alien invasion? No, that doesn't make sense. Eric looked puzzled but full of curiosity. He pushed the story forward. Using the paper rabbit he got at the lighthouse, he triggered a memory jump to move further back in Johnny's memories. Time moved back, the game showed Johnny's later years. The room was full of paper rabbits, and old Johnny just sat at the piano, playing the song he wrote for River over and over again. It was clear that by this time, River had already passed away. Paper rabbits, what do they really mean? Eric was sure at that moment. The paper rabbit must have something to do with Johnny's wish to go to the moon. But the question was, what exactly was the connection? This part of the game was also very simple. It was just about finding memory items related to Johnny. Once you found them all, you'd do a not-so-hard puzzle, and then the story would continue, taking you deeper into Johnny's memories. At this point, one thing was clear: To the Moon wasn't a game focused on fancy gameplay. It was a story-driven game, plain and simple. Chapter 34, What do the paper rabbits represent? As Eric progressed through the story, Johnny's memories moved from his old age to his middle years. Johnny was standing by River's window. By then, River was seriously ill, with a platypus plush sitting at her bedside. And the floor was covered with paper rabbits. There's just enough. Even after the surgery, we'll still have just enough left, so don't worry, Johnny said to River. But River just looked at him. A kind lie, you think this is a kind lie, don't you? No, I'm sure we'll have just enough, Johnny tried to explain, but she cut him off. Stop, I don't like it when you lie. I've gone over our finances, I know exactly where we stand. Why are you trying to convince me to go against my own will? River looked heartbroken. Johnny, on the other hand, was clearly worked up. We need that money for your medical bills, River. I know Anya means a lot to you, but this is just too much. I mean, she's not even. River interrupted again. Do you know what would really make me happy? As the conversation between River and Johnny went on, Eric, and the viewers watching his stream, finally understood what Anya really was. In earlier memory fragments, it was clear from Johnny's words that Anya was something very important to River. But no one knew what it was exactly. At first, Eric guessed it was the platypus plushie, but now he had a new theory. Anya wasn't the plushie, and she wasn't a person either. She might actually be that lighthouse standing at the edge of the cliff. And maybe River could have been saved, but instead, she insisted Johnny spend the money not on her treatment, but to fix up a house where she could look out at the lighthouse. That, she said, would make her happy. What the hell, is the view of the lighthouse really more important than staying alive? Eric's head was spinning. There were just too many questions swirling around in his mind. And at that moment in the game, River handed a paper rabbit to Johnny. It was the one with blue and yellow colors, 2 shades. What is this? River looked at Johnny with hopeful eyes. Johnny was a bit surprised but answered, it's a rabbit, just like the ones you used to make. And River pressed him. And Johnny fumbled a bit. Well, it's made of paper. And its body is yellow and the rest is blue. Good, and what else? River was getting more and more anxious. But Johnny had no idea what River really meant, so he changed the subject and said he had written a song he wanted to play for her. That song was the one from earlier, for River. River laughed and teased him, saying the name sounded cheesy. The memory kept moving backward. At this point, Johnny was feeling troubled. He was stuck between 2 hard choices. Should he use the money to treat River's illness, or keep building the house by the lighthouse, the one River had always dreamed of? In the game, Johnny struggled with the decision. But Eric, the viewers in the livestream, and the characters Neil and Watts all knew, in the end, Johnny chose to follow River's wish. But why did he do that? From Johnny's conversations with his friends Isabel and Nicholas, we got some important clues. Turns out, just like Eric suspected, Anya is the name of the lighthouse by the cliff. That lighthouse is also where Johnny and River got married. But it still doesn't make sense. Why was River so obsessed with that lighthouse? And there's another big clue from their conversations. It seems like River might have had some kind of illness, and the paper rabbits might be a sign of it. But why was she so fixated on that lighthouse? And what exactly do those paper rabbits mean? Damn it, I really can't figure it out. Eric's face was full of confusion. The livestream chat was also flooding the screen. My monkey brain is running out of space. CPU overloaded. What do those paper rabbits even mean? This game is starting to feel real weird. Hurry up, boss, move the story forward. +1, I really want to know what happens next. Clearly, the viewers were just as curious about how the story would unfold. They wanted answers, and wanted to see how the game would explain all these questions in the end. As the memories kept jumping back, Johnny and River looked younger and younger. At one point, they even shared a romantic hug under the lighthouse named Anya, both full of hope for the future. But what confused people was that River still kept folding paper rabbits, and one day she showed Johnny a blue and yellow rabbit and asked, "What is this?" She asked him the same question again later, even when she was very sick. That only made things more confusing. So what does the rabbit mean? Damn it, this is driving me crazy. Eric was scratching his head, almost crushed by curiosity. And then there's the question, what kind of illness did River actually have? So many questions were stuck in his mind. Talking more with Nicholas and Isabel, gave even more insight into River. Apparently, Isabel had the same illness as River. That illness made River's speech sound strange, sometimes unclear, sometimes confusing, making it hard for people to understand what she really meant. So River had some kind of condition that made it hard for her to express herself and connect with others. Eric started guessing in his mind. If that's the case, then all of River's strange behavior finally starts to make sense. Why did River keep asking Johnny about rabbits? Why did she tell Johnny to throw the sandbag at Anya? Why did she even stand at the edge of the cliff, risking her life to look? There's actually a reason for all of that. Because River has a mental illness, she can't express her feelings clearly, so instead, she uses hints to show what she wants deep inside. But even if we understand that, a new question comes up. What exactly do the rabbits stand for? And why is River so obsessed with the lighthouse named Anya? Why is she willing to give up her life for it? Is it just because that's where she and Johnny got married? That doesn't really make sense either. Chapter 35, River's Illness. The whole game uses a reverse timeline structure. Most players have already figured that out. With all these questions in mind, the story keeps moving backward. On the night before River and Johnny's wedding, they were both dressed up, sitting by the lighthouse, looking at the moon and chatting. That night, the lighthouse got its name, Anya. Under the moonlight, River and Johnny went up to the lighthouse. Their shadows were cast on the wall by the light. In the moonlight, Johnny patiently taught River how to dance. From night until morning. A soft, gentle piano melody played as they danced, flowing like a quiet stream. It made the whole game feel full of romance. The game's graphics might not be top tier, but with the music and mood, this moment felt truly beautiful and romantic. Damn, they really danced all night long. Eric couldn't help but say that with emotion. He had to admit at that moment, all the confusion in his heart faded for a while. Because at least right then, the game actually made a grown man like him feel what people call romance. The next day came. In front of the now-named lighthouse, Anya, River and Johnny officially became husband and wife. On the way to the wedding, River saw a little white rabbit that had been hit by a car. She looked a bit sad and also a bit strange. But Johnny didn't notice anything unusual. So, is that why River kept folding paper rabbits later on? But what's the connection? Eric was confused. But he couldn't figure it out. So he kept going with the story. Everyone at the wedding was super happy, but Eric noticed a small detail. At the wedding, Johnny's mom called him by a different name. In the game, Johnny's friend Nicholas also looked confused. Johnny responded naturally, saying that it was his grandfather's name, and his mom used Joey as a nickname to remember him by. Joey, that name definitely means something. Eric squinted his eyes. Time kept rolling back. Now we see the period when River and Johnny were dating, before getting married. They were at a horse ranch, riding horses together, laughing and having fun. Because it was the doctor's suggestion, they thought horseback riding might help ease River's condition. Just like most people in love, the two of them often showed affection. And now, players finally understood what River's illness actually was, confirming their earlier guesses. Asperger's syndrome, so that's what River has. Eric finally saw the name of the condition in the notebook clues. But he had never heard of this illness before. He glanced at the comments in the livestream chat. Clearly, everyone else was just as confused. People with this condition show symptoms like trouble making friends, difficulty with talking and communication, rigid behavior, and sticking to strange habits or rituals that don't make sense. It really matches her perfectly. Things started to make more sense. If she really had this illness, then all of River's strange behavior could be explained. Still, even if the behavior had a reason, the meaning behind her actions was still unclear. At this moment, Eric was still full of curiosity. Curious about River and Johnny. What did the paper rabbits mean? What kind of past did River and Johnny share? Why was Johnny so set on going to the moon? By now, Eric had been playing for almost 2 hours. But there were still no answers. Why Johnny wanted to go to the moon, why River would rather die than not finish the house with a view of Anya, why she kept folding paper rabbits all her life after they got married, and why she kept asking Johnny about it. None of that had been explained yet. The story kept moving, and now it went into Johnny's school years. It was during this time that he met River. And Eric noticed something, the platypus. River always carried that plush platypus during her high school years. It seemed to mean something important to her. It was also how Johnny first started talking to her. With help from his friend Nicholas, Johnny was pushed in front of River, who was sitting on the steps reading a book.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me? Standing in front of River, Johnny looked a little awkward. And then finally River replied, yes. Then why don't you never mind us, this platypus is really cool. Johnny was clearly trying hard to keep the conversation going. River just glanced at the platypus beside her, then went right back to reading. What are you reading? Johnny kept trying to make small talk.
It's a book.
About platypuses.
No.
Oh, that's fine too, I guess. Johnny was clearly feeling uncomfortable. River just seemed way too cold. From the way things looked, River wasn't very likable at that time. You could even say she was kind of distant. Even watching through a screen, you could feel just how awkward Johnny must have felt. The whole moment was painfully quiet. But thanks to the story being told in flashbacks, players knew this wasn't the real River. She only acted that way because she had Asperger. Lighthouse, River suddenly spoke, cutting off Johnny mid-sentence. This country still has a total of 16 secondary Fresnel lens lighthouses. 9 of them are along the coast, and one of those was actually converted from an old kerosene lighthouse. Oh, that's what you're reading. Well, actually, I was wondering, would you like to watch a movie with me? I don't know. That's okay, I can wait while you think about it. I can't think about it.
Why not?
No date, no time. How about this Saturday at 8, would that work? Okay. At this point, Eric felt a lump in his chest. It even made him feel a little heartbroken. As a regular person, there's just no way to really understand what this feels like. Honestly, he couldn't truly imagine how much pain River must be in. The kind of pain where you want to say something, but your mind and body just won't let you express it. Chapter 36, The Truth About to be Revealed. As the game continued, Eric was starting to feel worse and worse inside. But Dr. Neil and Dr. Eva were still working, trying to help Johnny become an astronaut and land on the moon. After all, they'd already signed the contract in the real world. No matter what, they had to help Johnny achieve his dream. Time moved forward again, now showing Johnny in high school. That's when they learned from Johnny himself why he liked River. It was because Johnny thought River was different. At this point, Johnny came off a little selfish. Even his best friend Nicholas called him out on it. Feeling sad for River right now. Suddenly, Johnny's kinda annoying. +1 selfish jerk. But something feels off, maybe there's a twist coming later. The chat in Eric's stream was full of comments and guesses. But right now, Eric wasn't paying any attention to them. He was fully pulled into the story. It really did seem like Johnny was acting selfish, maybe even a bit unlikable. But Eric couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on. Sure, this helped explain why River kept folding paper rabbits. But to Eric, it still felt like something was missing, something didn't quite add up. Time kept moving back, and now we saw Johnny as a kid. At home, when Johnny left for school, his mom didn't call him Johnny, she called him Joey. With soccer as a way in, Neil and Eva pushed forward again. But everything that came next was completely different. In front of his computer, Eric leaned in a little, eyes wide open. The screen showed a white, foggy scene. In that memory, even Neil and Eva said they could smell the stench of a dead animal. Before they could enter the next part of Johnny's memory, there was nothing but emptiness. That meant some of Johnny's childhood memories were damaged. And from the look and smell of things, those missing parts involved something bloody and the death of an animal. Since they couldn't move forward, Neil and Eva decided to stick to their original plan. By planting the dream of becoming an astronaut in Johnny's mind, the machine could guide him to keep moving toward that goal. But players clearly weren't happy with how Eva and Neil were going about it. What the hell, they messed up the memory. Johnny's childhood memories aren't even clear yet. Why are they doing things like this? Eric looked annoyed. Compared to the whole go to the moon thing, he was more curious about the hidden story behind it. And judging from how the game was going, he had a strong feeling that all the answers were buried in Johnny's childhood. But seriously, these two doctors were just cutting corners to get the job done. Was this all just for show? Then unexpectedly, something went wrong. No matter how much Neil and Eva tried to guide Johnny or drop hints. They added astronomy classes in elementary and middle school, swapped out the movies he watched for space-related ones. Everything pointed toward becoming an astronaut. But none of it worked. Johnny's later memories didn't change at all. He wasn't even interested in going to the moon. It wasn't just the two doctors, players were just as confused. In Johnny's subconscious, there wasn't even a trace of a desire to go to the moon. So why would someone like him make that his final wish before dying? What was it about the moon that drew him in? There wasn't much time left. Johnny's body was getting weaker and weaker. If they really wanted to make Johnny's wish come true, his broken childhood memory was probably the key. Dr. Neil contacted the company to ask why this was happening. Dr. Eva kept digging into why planting memories didn't change Johnny's desire. Assuming the machine wasn't broken, then going to the moon was Johnny's main goal. There had to be something deeper behind his wish. And River played an important part in his life. They'd been together since high school. But what was it exactly that changed Johnny's desires so much? While Watts was still thinking, Neil finally got the answer. Johnny's memory loss was caused by the large amount of beta blockers he took as a child. Propranolol, a type of beta blocker, is thought to stop the brain from storing memories the usual way. So Johnny's missing childhood memories were likely due to heavy use of beta blockers when he was young. But that didn't mean the memories were completely wiped, they were just hidden. To use the machine to dig into Johnny's childhood, they needed something to trigger them. That's when Eric thought of something. The smell of blood, rotting flesh. Wait, didn't the doctor run over a squirrel in the beginning? What if the smell of the squirrel could be used as a trigger? Looking at the clue in the game, Eric suddenly understood. It was all part of the setup from the very beginning. So that's it, that squirrel from the start really had a purpose. You could say it died for a good cause. It was meant to die. Huge thanks to that squirrel for its contribution. Eric said as he moved the character to the side of the road to collect the squirrel's scent. Meanwhile, the chat exploded with comments like, "Squirrel, wow, thanks a lot." One of the most tragic characters, the squirrel. But aside from some jokes in the chat, most people felt the same way as Eric. They were curious and excited to see what Johnny's childhood memories would look like. As the chat kept urging him on, Eric used the scent as the memory link and successfully entered one of Johnny's more chaotic memories. This one was all jumbled up, with different points in time overlapping. So on the street, you could see many little versions of Johnny running around. One of them caught Eric's attention, Johnny playing with a soccer ball. That ball was one of the memory links from earlier. The two doctors searched all over the town, but couldn't find anything useful. At the same time, Johnny's mom had just finished talking with someone and was about to start the car and drive off. But no one noticed that little Johnny was chasing his soccer ball and had ended up behind the car. The engine started, bang, the little boy was hit and fell to the ground. What just happened? Did little Johnny get hit by the car? Is that the reason for the missing memories? But wasn't it because of too many beta blockers? Eric was confused, just like the two doctors in the game. They all thought the kid who got hit was Johnny. But in the next moment, the real Johnny showed up. And suddenly, the confusion started to clear up. Chapter 37, The Whole Truth. The boy who got hit was Johnny, it was his twin brother, Joey. And Joey wasn't some grandfather's name, either. After the accident, Johnny's mom had a mental breakdown and started treating Johnny as if he were Joey. That's also when Johnny was given the beta blockers. Everything from before finally made sense. Why Johnny always slept in a double bed. Why his mom kept calling him Joey. Even things like his favorite comics or pickled olives, they weren't actually his favorites, they were Joey's. After the car accident, his mom, crushed by grief, raised Johnny as if he were Joey. But there was still one more mystery. What about River? What does Johnny's wish to go to the moon have to do with River? As the story moved forward, it reached a time before Joey's death. Joey, as the older brother, really cared for Johnny. Once, the two of them entered a contest at an amusement park. Joey won a toy train, while Johnny only got a platypus plushie. Johnny said he wanted the train too, but his mom wouldn't let him have it. Then Joey said they could play with the toy train together. From this, it seemed like their mom might be a little more fond of Joey. Feeling a bit down, Johnny walked toward the back hill of the amusement park, holding the platypus he had just won. At that moment, Eric suddenly became alert.
Yes, that platypus.
The same platypus that belonged to River. It turned out Johnny had won it at the amusement park. Could this mean? The next scene confirmed what he was thinking. Johnny looked up at the starry sky on the back hill. His bad mood seemed to lift a bit. He had found a nice spot. A tree stump just like a bench, where you could sit and look out at the stars in the distance. And just then, a little girl appeared on the screen. It was River as a child. Eric felt a chill run down his spine. In that moment, something clicked in his mind. This was the first time Johnny and River met. Not in high school like they had thought. When Johnny saw River, he greeted her happily, but River instinctively turned to leave. Johnny quickly called out to her. After a short conversation, he asked if she wanted to sit and watch the stars with him. Soft piano and violin music played in the background. Under the starry sky, Johnny and River sat on the tree stump, looking into the distance. The camera cut to a closer view. The green grass on the lawn swayed gently in the breeze. Look over there. Did you know? There are so many lights in the sky. Johnny tried to start a conversation. River replied the same way she did back in high school. Ah yeah, me too. Johnny looked a little awkward but kept trying to talk. You said this is your spot, right? I only come here during the carnival. You don't like crowded places. Yeah, I don't like them either. Johnny went on, you still haven't told me your name. I won't tell you, people at school make fun of me because of it. Why? They say my name makes them want to go to the bathroom. Well, I mean, it can't be worse than Johnny, right? Like there are people called Johnny pretty much everywhere in the world. So what? What's so special about having a name that everyone else has? I just hope, like the stars in the sky, they might all look the same from here, but that doesn't make them any less beautiful. Yeah, I think so too. So what do you think stars are? My dad says stars are huge balls burning from the inside. Johnny and River kept chatting. Then River asked, have you ever tried making Easter bunnies out of stars? Like making constellations in the sky? Yeah. I've looked for others before, but never for a rabbit. Do you want to try? Yeah, I'm sure we can find the best rabbit constellation. Let's see who finds it first. As they counted down, 3, 2, 1, River suddenly said, I found it. Where? Johnny looked confused. The scene slowly shifted up toward the sky, focusing on the full moon. In the sky. Where in the sky? Think big, everything else is big. I can't see it. Wait, I see it. Tell me what you see. They're right, that's the ears and the head. Johnny pointed at the moon. And over there, those are the legs. Exactly, what else? And the moon. The moon is its big round belly. Simple lines appeared on the screen, outlining the stars in the sky. It formed a rabbit. A rabbit with a yellow belly. In that moment, scenes from the game flashed in front of Eric. Why did River start folding so many paper rabbits after Johnny told her about their first meeting? Why did River ask over and over throughout her life what that yellow-bellied rabbit meant? Why did none of Johnny's answers ever satisfy her? Now Eric finally understood. River had been trying to remind Johnny in her own way. Reminding him that this, under the stars and the moon, was their true first meeting. While talking with Johnny, River had once said she always thought the stars in the sky were lighthouses. She believed those lighthouses wanted to talk to others, but couldn't. All they could do was shine their light, that was all they had. Everything finally made sense. Why did River care so much about Anya? Then came the scene that touched so many people. As his mom called him home, Johnny had to leave. But before he went, he gave his platypus to River. "This was my prize, I'm giving it to you." That's how the platypus that stayed with River all those years came to be. Will you come back next year?" River asked Johnny, hugging the platypus. "Of course, and you?" "I will. Same time, same place." "Yeah." Hearing that, Johnny happily got ready to go home, but just then, River asked something. "But what if you get lost or forget? Then we'll meet on the moon, silly." As Johnny said those words, countless players who were playing the game at that moment suddenly felt their eyes sting. The game screen in front of them started to blur. All the confusion was finally answered here. Chapter 38: What going to the moon really meant. Why did Johnny want to go to the moon? Because even though his childhood memories had been clouded by beta blockers, even though he had forgotten that he had already met River before, he still remembered that promise. "If you get lost or forget, then let's meet on the moon." After River left Johnny, this thought slowly surfaced from deep in his memory. He had forgotten everything, how he met River, what they talked about. But the one thing he remembered was that he had to go to the moon. Because River had gone missing from his life. And he needed to go to the moon to find her. Why did River keep folding paper rabbits throughout her life? Because from what Johnny said, River realized he couldn't remember the first time they met. So she kept folding paper rabbits, trying to remind Johnny in her own way that they had already met long ago. She was even willing to sacrifice her own health to build that house, just to help Johnny remember. Because when they first met, River had opened her heart to Johnny, saying the stars were like lighthouses, shining toward one another. And Johnny felt there was something special about her. Something he needed. It was all because they had met before. Every mystery had finally been solved. Johnny didn't really want to go to the moon. He wanted to be with River. "I can't say what's in my heart, but I'll spend my whole life trying to help you remember, like a lighthouse shining for you. It's a kind of obsession, a kind that no one else understands. Even if I've forgotten you, I've never forgotten the promise that we'd meet again on the moon." River, holding the platypus in her hands, stared at the moon in the distance. In that moment, every player's eyes started to blur. "Damn, what kind of game is this? I can't even see the screen anymore." Can't see the screen +1. /*T, my eyes are burning, must have been watching the stream too long. Thought the game was kind of boring earlier, but now I just want to say, why? I'm crying my eyes out, I just can't hold it in. Real men cry, look at the streamer, even his eyes are red. What does tough guys cry too mean? This is it. This hurts, I seriously can't take it anymore. The game used reverse storytelling, starting with the mystery of going to the moon, pulling at the player's curiosity and emotions, and slowly, piece by piece, revealed the final truth. Combined with the background music, it moved countless players to tears. Some emotional players couldn't help but cry once everything was revealed. Men or women, it didn't matter. They were all deeply moved by the story between River and Johnny. Damn it, I never thought this game would wreck me like this. Eric grabbed a napkin to blow his nose, his eyes red from holding back tears. But to everyone's surprise, the game didn't end there. As Neil and Dr. Eva talked, everyone suddenly remembered. This was still inside Johnny's memories. There was also the contract Johnny signed to go to the moon. Neil, what if they really got lost? Wait, does this mean? Eva, don't tell me you didn't see it coming. Neil, I thought this was going to be an uplifting fairy tale. Eva, I should have known a certain little girl would turn it into a mess. I think now we finally know how to send him to the moon. Neil, wait, you're not seriously thinking of doing that, are you? Eva, it's our job, Neil. It's what the contract says we must do. Neil, damn it, hold on. As the two of them argued, Eva disappeared into Johnny's childhood memories. Neil ran after her. Eric, sitting in front of the computer, suddenly had a very bad feeling. Wait, what's this lady doctor trying to do? Back in the memories, Neil found Eva during their high school years. At the same time, the background music turned intense, and the screen took on an old yellow filter, like an old photo. Neil, I know what you're about to do. Eva, look, the contract says we have to get him to the moon. The only way to do that is to give Johnny a reason to want to go. Neil, so that means removing River. But if you do that, what's the point of the moon? The whole reason he wanted to go was because River was gone. Eva, I understand, but we're bound by contract, especially. Neil, screw the damn contract. I didn't take this job to make people more miserable. Eva, I don't know about you, but I do this so those old folks can leave this world with a smile. What about you? As their conversation went on, Eric's bad feeling was confirmed. That lady doctor really was going to remove River. Even if she had a solid reason. There was no law or rule that forced this choice. But after spending hours getting to know the story between Johnny and River, the players just couldn't accept it. She's seriously that cold-hearted. Why is she so damn rigid? Damn it, I can't take this anymore. If people were touched by Johnny and River's story earlier, then now they were just as furious. Eric slammed the table during the live stream. And the chat exploded. Clearly no one could accept this. What the hell was this? Screw the contract, screw the rules. Johnny didn't want to go to the moon, he just wanted River. And now this woman is trying to erase River, seriously. How can anyone accept that? But neither the viewers watching the stream, nor players like Eric, nor even Neil inside the game, could do anything to stop it. Eva, who had higher control over the machine, kept deleting River from every corner of Johnny's memory, changing everything. Along the way, she even set up traps to block Neil. Chapter 39, Then We'll Meet on the Moon. For the first time in the game, the background music changed from instrumental to a song with lyrics. Everything's all right. It felt like the song was singing out River's feelings. With the sad music playing, River was slowly removed from Johnny's life. At the stairs where Johnny thought he met River for the first time, the platypus and River were both gone. Only a book about the lighthouse was left, flipping in the wind with a rustling sound. Johnny's close friend Nicholas walked down the hallway. At the library counter, River was gone. Joey had taken her place. The two brothers chatted about Transformers and space. River's favorite book, The Emperor's New Clothes, was covered in dust. Outside the movie theater where Johnny and River once watched a film together, now it was just Johnny and his brother Joey, laughing as they walked in. Yes, River had been erased. Eva changed Johnny's memories, replacing River with his brother Joey. She kept planting hints and guiding Johnny's dream, becoming an astronaut. Without River but with Joey by his side, Johnny's future completely changed. The horse ranch where Johnny once rode with River was now empty. In front of the lighthouse named Anya, there was only overgrown grass. The couple from before were no longer there. Even the dead rabbit from the wedding day was gone. In Johnny's memory, his future had taken a whole new path. Through constant training and study, Johnny finally got an offer from the space agency and went there for a visit. His goal was right in front of him. Go to the moon, this goal now seemed only a matter of time. What Eva had done seemed to be working. But every player and viewer was silent. Yes, Johnny was about to go to the moon. Eva and Neil were also about to finish their mission. But was this really what Johnny wanted? Going to the moon but without River. Did that even mean anything? In Johnny's imagined future, he arrived at the space agency. At this point, Eric and all the players who had made it here were just going through the motions, moving the character forward. There was only one feeling, pain. But as Eva and Neil reached the space agency and toured it with Johnny, she's not here either. What are you talking about? Let's just go. As Neil and Eva talked, Eric seemed to notice something different. Wait, that old lady. She looks like she's searching for something. In the waiting room, thinking back on what just happened and what Eva had said, Eric suddenly had a bold guess, one he really hoped was right. But before he could even say it on stream, the sad background music suddenly went silent, replaced by the sound of a heartbeat. Then cheerful music started playing. A girl with an orange-red ponytail appeared at the door. "Ah, you must be the new recruit, River, right? Glad you could make it," said the unnamed head of the space agency. "Hi, I'm Johnny." Johnny stepped forward and greeted her, just like the first time. At the same time, the last memory piece was finally collected. Eva, standing by the window, let out a big sigh of relief. "Phew, I really thought she was gone." "What the hell, Eva, but you deleted her," Neil said in disbelief. "No, like I told you, I only moved her. What she chooses to do with her life is still up to her. This new world was built from public data and Johnny's personal wishes. Since River was someone personal to him, her data wouldn't have been stored in the public system." As Eva explained, Neil finally understood. So, all of this came from Johnny. Yes, River still came. Even though their lives had changed, even though Johnny and River had no connection in that version of their past. In this imagined world, Johnny still remembered that promise. "What if we get separated, then we'll meet again on the moon, silly." Yes, in the end, they did meet again, on the moon. Eric's tears, which he had forced back earlier, were coming up again. At the Space Center, the music playing now was for River anymore. It had a new name, To the Moon. In the main hall, watching Johnny play the piano, River softly said from the audience, "I like that name." So, in Johnny's imagined memories, the two of them spent years training and getting ready. Finally, the rocket was almost ready to launch. Neil and Eva also invited Lily, the caretaker, along with Johnny's doctor and others, to witness this moment. At sunset, many people stood on the long bridge over the river, watching the rocket launch site in the distance. With a loud rumble, the rocket lifted off. At the same time, the sound of a heartbeat echoed. A heavy, muffled heartbeat. It was Johnny's real heartbeat. He didn't have much time left. As the piano piece To the Moon played, the rocket soared into the sky. Ahead of them was their destination, the moon. Inside the rocket, Johnny and River looked at each other at the same time. Then, gently, their hands came together. "Then we'll meet again on the moon, silly." As the moon appeared, the screen faded to black. And then, one by one, Johnny's past memories flashed by like a reel of film. Looking at these memories and thinking about Johnny and River's story in the game, Eric finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He covered his face with both hands and grabbed a napkin from the side. But he didn't wipe his nose, he wiped his eyes. "Damn," a grown man cried again. "This wrecked me, man. Can't even see the screen through my tears. If you really get lost, then we'll meet on the moon, you silly. If you really get lost, then we'll meet on the moon, you silly." As the credits started rolling at the end of the game, Eric's livestream chat was slowly taken over by that same line. In that moment, everyone was touched by the story. They even forgot that this game was actually part of a sci-fi game jam. No one even cared anymore whether it counted as science fiction or not. Everyone was completely caught up in Johnny and River's story. Chapter 40 Hot Topic. In the Magic City Game Division. At this moment, in the Magic City Game Division, the officials and judges in charge of the Sci-Fi Game Jam were holding a meeting to go over the results. Unlike regular players, these judges have to try every game. so they base their ratings on summaries from their review teams, plus their own gameplay impressions. Let's be real, there's no way they could play through every story from start to finish with so many games in such a short time. And since players were often unhappy with past winners, this time the scores combined both player votes and official reviews. The whole point of the contest held by the game department was to help guide the local game market in a better direction. But the game market is driven by the players. Even if the official judges pick a game that fits the theme, if players don't like it, how can it possibly influence the market? Let's start with voting for the top prize. Everyone, please explain your choices one by one, said the lead judge sitting at the head of the table. NetDragon's game, Galactic Heroes, developed by designer Marcus. While the story and balancing have a few flaws, the level design and packing are very well done, said the first judge. Nebula Games To the Moon, developed by Lucas. Though its gameplay isn't anything special, the story told in reverse is incredibly well paced and beautifully handled, added another. I agree, even though Lucas's game is different from his earlier Undertale and doesn't have a particularly creative system or mechanics, the pure storytelling alone is powerful enough to move people. Galactic Heroes is a great game, no doubt, but To the Moon is also excellent. From a personal point of view, most indie developers just don't have the resources to make something like Galactic Heroes, but To the Moon is different. That's why I lean more toward To the Moon. I get that it's a good game, but can To the Moon really be called a sci-fi game? It's more of a love story, isn't it? Well, strictly speaking, it's not really sci-fi, but if we hold everything to that standard, more than 40% of this year's entries wouldn't qualify as sci-fi either. I'm still not convinced. I think Galactic Heroes is more promising. So, the lead judge of the contest found himself caught in a heated debate over which game should win. At the same time, countless players online were trying out the competing games. In terms of early publicity, many of the games had received plenty of exposure. But the one who got the most attention was clearly Lucas. Undertale was still fresh in people's minds, and then Belle, who had been pretending to be dead, suddenly reappeared, only to get absolutely shut down by Lucas. That whole drama gave Lucas even more exposure. Because of that, lots of players rushed to try To the Moon as soon as it came out. Online forums and player groups were already full of people recommending the game and talking about it. Everyone go play Lucas's new game To the Moon. It had me crying. Come on, is it really that emotional? Isn't this the game Lucas made in just a couple of weeks? So what if it only took a few weeks? If it's good, it's good. The story is super touching. Play it and you'll understand what it means when even tough guys cry. Damn, just reading your comments is making me tear up again. Is it really that emotional? Just go play it yourself. I didn't realize how easily I could cry until I played this. Seriously, alright, I'm gonna buy it and give it a shot. So who are you voting for? I'm voting To the Moon no matter what. Same here, my vote goes to the Moon. Yeah, it was moving, but is it really fair to call To the Moon a sci-fi game? Who cares if it's sci-fi or not? I'm voting for it anyway. Everyone who played To the Moon right away didn't hesitate to cast their votes for it. As for whether it technically counts as sci-fi, after experiencing the story, most players didn't care at all. Whether it was sci-fi or not didn't matter to them. They thought the game was good, it moved them, that was reason enough to vote. As for whether it fit the contest rules, that was something for the officials to decide. Soon, the sales numbers for the first 3 days came in. To the Moon took the lead with 193,000 copies sold. Second place, Galactic Heroes, sold 87,000. That's a huge gap. But there were two big reasons To the Moon pulled so far ahead in sales. To the Moon is available on both mobile and PC, which means a wider player base. Also, it only costs $2. In comparison, Galaxy Heroes is priced at $9. To be fair, To the Moon is cheaper partly because of how short the game is. From start to finish, it only takes a little over 4 hours to complete. But even so, the lower price makes a big difference in sales. Chapter 41, Final Decision. As time passed, To the Moon kept climbing in sales. At the same time, many media outlets in China that were following the competition started releasing articles. Unforgettable love to the moon will bring you to tears. Game review, a story that hits you right in the heart. Top contender for the Game Awards, Is to the Moon really a sci-fi game? A game that made countless grown men cry. About a week after the competition began, it became pretty clear which games were actually competing for the top prizes and which ones were just filling the list. Some entries were clearly just there for show and didn't leave much of an impression. The serious contenders were already well known to most players and even industry designers by now. The top prize was clearly going to be a toss-up between To the Moon and Galaxy Heroes by Swordfire Studio, a team under NetDragon. Among player votes, To the Moon was far ahead of Galaxy Heroes. But this wasn't a popularity contest. Official reviews from the game division were just as important. While To the Moon had the edge in some areas, it wasn't a complete blowout. So the final decision still depended on how the official panel scored the games. Meanwhile, online debates between fans of both games were getting heated. Of course, Galaxy Heroes will win. I admit To the Moon has a good story, but come on, it has no gameplay at all. Can you even call it a sci-fi game? Totally agree, Galaxy Heroes deserves the win, plain and simple. Oh, please define gameplay for me. Isn't story part of gameplay? Isn't music part of it too? What a game has to have fighting or puzzles to count. Exactly, if To the Moon doesn't count as a sci-fi game, then a bunch of other entries shouldn't either. Maybe the game division should just kick them all out. Blah blah, I don't care, my vote went to the Moon. The win definitely belongs to Galaxy Heroes. Yep, Galaxy Heroes is sure to take the crown. HMPH Galaxy Heroes, just look at the designer's name, Marcus, sounds like a dreamer. If he gets first prize, it'll only be in his dreams. Damn bro, that's a savage take, but kind of makes sense. Are you guys so sure it's only between To the Moon and Galaxy Heroes? Don't forget Dark Beast by our very own Demon King. Hess, even if To the Moon and Galaxy Heroes are leading in votes right now, I have a feeling the winner will end up being Asagi from Black Lily Studio. Hey you two upstairs, it's not even nighttime yet. Stop daydreaming and leave quickly and cleanly, alright? +1, you two upstairs, please leave smoothly and quietly. Everyone has their own favorite pick, and there's no real conclusion yet. Naturally, people are just trying to gain some advantage across different communities. But really, it's all just people arguing from their own points of view, compared to all the debates and heated discussions online. Lucas was much calmer. So, inside the Nebula Games office, Lucas sat in his office, calling to inform someone about their interview results. They had already filled the roles for art and music. The only problem left was the game balancing and level design role. He'd interviewed several people, but none of them really stood out to him. Lucas, how are you not even a little nervous? Anna asked, watching him get up after the call and pace around the office. Yeah, isn't today the day they announce the winners? Rachel added, sounding a bit excited. This was the third game she'd worked on. She wasn't the clueless newcomer she once was in the game industry. As for her dream of becoming a doujin star and then a manga artist, that had long been pushed aside. One reason was that she'd started to really enjoy making games. The other reason was that with how well Nebula Games was doing, there wasn't much point in chasing manga anymore. Even if I was nervous, what good would it do? It's not like I can control the outcome, Lucas said, clearly a bit helpless after hearing Anna and Rachel. Of course he hoped they'd win an award, but the outcome was out of his hands. Oh right, let's release the mobile version of Undertale after the winners are announced today, Lucas said, suddenly thinking of something. At the current pace, we're basically guaranteed a top 2 spot. Whether we win first place or not, there'll be a lot of buzz. Might as well ride that wave for our own boost. While To the Moon was in the competition, Nebula Games had focused mainly on 2 things. Porting Undertale to mobile, which was already done and hadn't taken much effort. They were just holding off on the release to take advantage of the hype. The other focus was building up the Nebula Games team. Aside from the dev team, Lucas planned to expand even more. All the other departments had been growing too. Operations, finance, HR, they'd all been set up. And they'd started building a platform team as well. Even now, most players, and even people in the industry, still saw Nebula Games as a tiny studio. From Mirror to Undertale to the Moon, they hadn't made any AAA games. All their titles were small-scale indie projects. But for Lucas, his ambitions clearly didn't stop there. He had plans for Nebula Games to explore a much bigger world. And building their own platform was the first step in laying a strong foundation. As for whether the industry would notice, to be blunt, right now Nebula Games wasn't a big deal. Even if To the Moon won first place in this competition, it would just cause a small stir in the indie scene. At best, they'd gain some attention in the wider gaming world. But to say it would make the big companies nervous or hostile, that was just wishful thinking. Besides, building your own platform was pretty common anyway. Just building a platform doesn't mean you've created a proper channel. You still need people to help you set it up, and enough popularity. Some mid-tier developers and indie studios, especially those with a series and a solid fanbase, already run their own platforms. Because if they launch their games on third-party platforms, they have to pay a cut. But with their own platforms, when players buy the games there, aside from taxes, it's all profit. At the same time, while players online were still debating, the game selection event was finalized with an official announcement from the game division. Chapter 42, High Praise. Amid all the discussions from players and the media online, at 3 p.m. the game division's website and all its official channels, including social media account and their game account, all released the latest results. To the Moon won first place in the event, while Galaxy Heroes came in second. Lucas from Nebula Games also got a call from the game division. They invited him to attend the upcoming awards ceremony. At the same time, the official game store featured a banner on the homepage announcing the win of To the Moon. Also on the homepage was a featured review praising To the Moon as the first prize winner. Imagine sitting on your deathbed, remembering every happy moment in your life, every regret, especially the regrets. You always tell yourself, if you could go back, you'd do that one thing, chase that dream. But somehow, things always got in the way: family, work, time spent with friends. And now, as you near the end, you have no time left. But what if you could change your memories at the end of your life, and in your mind, make that dream come true? This is just the tip of the iceberg in To the Moon. It's not a big production. It doesn't have flashy visuals or complicated gameplay, but just like the creator Lucas's last game, Undertale, this one teaches every narrative game designer a lesson. It raises the bar for storytelling in games to a whole new level. It's hard to review the whole game without spoilers, but we'll just say this: if you care about storytelling in games, you have to play this one. Maybe this opinion will change with time, but right now, this game is absolutely perfect. The dialogue is perfect. The banter between Dr. Eva and Dr. Neil is full of clever jokes, bringing humor to an otherwise dark story. The story is perfect. The tale of Johnny and his wife River is full of twists, some bittersweet, some truly heartbreaking, but it's more than just a mix of laughs and tears. The music is perfect, filled with beautiful piano melodies. Each track stands out, returning at key story points and choices, just like you'd expect from the best movies. To the Moon is about a kind of life, the people, places, struggles and joys that make us human. The story starts as a bit of a mess, but as time moves backward, everything comes together into something truly satisfying. No doubt about it, this is a perfect game. The game division's review gave To the Moon extremely high praise, fully recognizing its place in the world of video games. So, inside the Nebula Games office, Anna and Rachel were the first to see the announcement from the game division, and both of them let out loud cheers. Lucas, look, To the Moon just made it to the front page of the official game platform, Anna shouted excitedly. This was the official platform, and the game even won first place in the event. That was something Anna had never even dared to dream of before. For someone who's always wanted to do something big in the gaming world, she was so excited that she could barely contain herself. Her whole face turned red from all the excitement. Rachel felt the same. She looked thrilled. Even the new hires at Nebula Games, who joined after To the Moon was released, were super excited, even though the game had nothing to do with them. This kind of result proved that Nebula Games had a bright future, and now they were going to be part of that future, so of course they were happy. "Oh right, aren't you going to attend the To the Moon Awards ceremony next?" Anna suddenly remembered and asked Lucas. "Yeah, the folks from the game department already told me," Lucas nodded. "An awards ceremony, will it be on TV?" Rachel asked curiously from the side. "You're overthinking it, it's not some kind of commercial event. It's more like showing your face, getting a certificate, that kind of thing." Lucas shook his head. "I see," Rachel nodded in understanding. "All right, let's drop that topic and talk a bit about the company. Just giving everyone a heads up, after the National Day holiday, we'll be kicking off a new project, and this time it's going to be a big one. Also, we need to get the platform up and running before the end of October. Anything time-consuming that's not core work, we'll outsource," Lucas said to everyone. Mirror, Undertale, and To the Moon, these 3 games were all low-cost, small-scale projects. But in terms of sales, they were definite successes. The money made from them wasn't enough for Lucas to jump into a full-scale AAA game yet. But it was more than enough to start making more polished and mid-sized titles. Hearing this, everyone's expressions grew more serious, though mostly they looked excited. After all, anyone in the game industry dreams of being part of a major project, whether it's for personal goals or career growth. After chatting with the team for a bit, Lucas went back to his office, leaned back in his chair, and stared at the UI that only he could see. No doubt about it, To the Moon had earned him a big chunk of points. It gave him enough to do 3 full 10 roles, and that's not even counting what Undertale and Mirror brought in. Right now, his total points had reached 4.5 million. That's enough for 45 roles. But even looking at that number, Lucas didn't rush to use them. He was planning to save up first. Even though he hadn't finalized the next project yet, he knew they wouldn't start until after the holiday. At the current rate of growth, he figured he'd probably have enough for another 10 roll by then. After all, To the Moon, which just won first prize, was now featured on the official platform's recommendation list. That was bound to bring in a ton of new players. And more players meant more points. Saving up for a full 10 roll gave you a better chance at getting something good. At least, that's what Superstition said. He just hoped this time it wouldn't be like last time, 21 pulls and only 2 memory capsules, not even 1 rare skill book. Chapter 43, I Think I'm a Warrior of Love. The award ceremony for the game department's sci-fi competition was held at the department's office in Magic City. Specifically, it was in the conference room of the building. They called it an award ceremony, but it really didn't live up to that name. Even though it was during the National Day holiday, the game department still had quite a few staff working. It wasn't clear whether they were full-time employees or just contractors. Nothing fancy, people were just taking photos with their phones. Outside the building, there were a few gaming media folks with cameras and signs on their shoulders. But they mostly stayed at a distance, taking photos. No one came up to do interviews. It was still early. If anyone was going to be interviewed, it'd be after the designers finished the official event inside. It was all pretty basic, but for Lucas, who was attending for the first time, it still felt interesting. It was only 1:30 p.m. He had been told earlier that the event would start at 2. Following a staff member, he entered a temporarily repurposed conference room. The place was fairly big. The interior had a red, brown, and white color scheme, with a tiered layout. Chairs were arranged in 2 main sections. The stage at the front had a long table, with bright red flags on either side and the national emblem in the center. Each seat in the room had a plastic nameplate with the game designer's name on it. Lucas quickly found his seat, front row, next to the wall, and noticed someone already sitting beside it. Your Lucas, To the Moon, taking first place is well deserved. Marcus moved to let Lucas sit, a faint smile on his face, but his heart was a mess. Saying he wasn't upset would be a lie. But hate, not really. In fact, he kind of admired him. After all, he had played To the Moon too, and it had deeply moved him. Mr. Marcus, I've heard a lot about you. I really like Galactic Heroes, especially the level design in Chapter 3, it was great. Hearing Marcus speak, Lucas glanced at the name tag in front of him and smiled as he extended his hand. Oh, not at all. The storytelling in To the Moon was flawless, and your earlier game, Undertale, was amazing. Marcus shook his hand and replied with the usual polite flattery, but then something clicked. Why did this moment feel so familiar? It was just like the scene he imagined in his head a month ago. Except the roles were reversed. Marcus went silent as he let go of the handshake. Lucas, on the other hand, didn't notice at all. Without meaning to, he just hurt a fellow game designer's fragile pride. Some nearby designers who noticed the exchange came over to chat with Lucas. What surprised Lucas was how friendly a few of them were, as if they'd known him forever. After a bit of small talk, Lucas figured it out. None of them actually knew him, but they all had one thing in common. They had all been publicly bashed online by Bell before. The only difference was, unlike Lucas, none of them ever clapped back. They just got trashed for no reason, and Bell even used their names for attention. Lucas, on the other hand, had fired back, and in a way, gave them all a bit of payback too. Now that Lucas had taken first place in the contest, many designers naturally wanted to connect with him. They were all part of the same industry, after all. The more friends, the better. Lucas's phone now had a bunch of new contacts, and he joined several small chat groups with other designers. As everyone chatted, the higher-ups from the game division soon arrived in the meeting room. Before coming, Lucas had done his homework. He already knew who the key leaders in the game division were, people he'd likely have to deal with in the future. The award ceremony officially began with a speech from David, the head of the Magic City game division, a tall, skinny man in his 50s with gold-rimmed glasses, the classic scholarly type. His speech was formal and serious. After the speech, it was time for the awards. David solemnly announced the first prize. Lucas smiled as he walked to the front, and when the applause died down, he received a red booklet and a medal from David, both symbols of his first-place win. Then came the thank you speech. Lucas had already memorized it, just tweaked last year's winner's speech a bit. If it ended up sounding the same, he didn't care. He was the first one to speak anyway. I'd like to thank the organizers. I'm honored to win first place in this contest. Standing here right now, I feel very excited. As Lucas spoke, the audience broke into loud applause, but Marcus, who had been sitting next to him earlier, had a complicated look on his face. Why did this speech sound exactly like his? After all the designers finished their speeches and took photos holding their certificates and medals with the game department staff, the event basically wrapped up. As they walked out of the game division, reporters who had been waiting outside rushed over. Most of them crowded around Lucas and Marcus from NetDragon's Swordfire studio. After all, out of the group, these two had the most buzz. Mr. Lucas, how do you feel about winning first place this time? Mr. Lucas, do you have plans for a new game after To the Moon? Will it be another warm, emotional game? The reporters fired off questions one after another. But clearly, everyone was keeping things pretty calm. And since it wasn't an exclusive interview, as long as Lucas answered, all the media outlets could use it. It just depended on who could publish fastest. Winning first prize was totally unexpected and a huge surprise. I really didn't think the higher-ups would believe in To the Moon this much. Getting first prize also brings a lot of pressure, but I'll keep working hard to support the growth of the local game industry. Listening to Lucas go on and on, the reporters around him looked frustrated. He's such a young game designer. Why does he sound like a government spokesperson? There's nothing juicy at all. But what he said next made them even more disappointed. As for the next game, I don't really have any solid plans yet. I'm not sure if it'll be another feel-good game either. But personally, I do enjoy making this kind of game. I guess I've always thought of myself as a warrior of love. Chapter 44, Outlast. Not even 20 minutes after the interview ended, before Lucas even made it back from the game department to Nebula Games, the media already had their reports published. Exclusive scoop, Nebula Games, next game might be. Lucas, I think I'm a warrior of love. No new game yet, but Lucas hints that Nebula's next title could be a heartwarming love story. Rising indie dev star, the warrior of love, Lucas. The buzz around Project Odyssey hadn't fully died down yet. To the Moon was still on the official platform's front page. These interview pieces also helped more players get to know Lucas. Even the official account saw a big boost. Followers had hit 800,000. At the current pace, hitting 1 million was just a matter of time. And in the official profile for the verified account, his portfolio now included To the Moon and a new label, Warrior of Love. Under the interview posts, players were busy chatting. Warrior of Love, what kind of title is that? Actually, when you think about it, he kind of is. Take Mirror for example, every character had a sweet love story, even if the darker stuff was pretty wild. And then there's the peaceful ending of Undertale, full of love. And now To the Moon, the whole game is literally about love. When you put it like that, it actually makes a lot of sense. I'm more curious about what Lucas's next game will be. Probably something really heartwarming, right? Of course, he's the Warrior of Love, after all. But Lucas didn't really pay much attention to all the online talk. At the moment, he had just arrived at the Nebula Games office and was doing a gacha draw alone. Golden lights flashed in front of him. The special effects looked pretty flashy. But the thing was, it felt too real. 50 pulls in one go. Out of them, he got 37 regular skill books, covering story writing, music, level design, and more. 4 rare skill books, 1 for architecture, 1 for psychology, and 2 for music. The remaining 9 were memory capsules. There's 1 more pull left, might as well just use it, Lucas said, seeing he had just enough points. Without thinking too much, he went ahead. As another golden light flashed, he was surprised, something new actually dropped. It wasn't a rare skill book, but a special item, similar to a memory capsule. Single pull miracles, is it really that superstitious? But this thing, Lucas paused for a moment. Fear Converter, 120 days. Effect, turns the player's fear into 10 times the points, up to 6 million. It was clearly a limited time item, basically a capped double XP card, but only for fear. Also unclear was whether the cap applied before or after the conversion. Lucas guessed it was probably the latter. And this item is different from the memory capsule, it's time limited. Are they hinting that I'm supposed to make a horror game next? Lucas was speechless. He was still thinking about what kind of game to make next. It definitely wouldn't be a small project like before. This time, he wanted to aim for a 3D game. But the scale couldn't be too big either. Even though game development in this parallel world was much easier than in his past life, that didn't mean you could skip building up your technical skills. It was like building with blocks. Everyone had access to the same pieces, but what you built depended on your own skill. Same thing with games, especially for FPS or action games. Take action games, for example. The most important thing is how the hits feel. So how do you make hits feel real? Sound effects, controller feedback, visual effects, UI screen shake, and all kinds of collision detection. But the core of it all is the freeze frame. Same goes for FPS games. So for the next project, Lucas didn't plan to make something too complex. If I think about it this way, maybe a horror game isn't a bad idea. I could add in some action elements, and in horror games, action isn't the main focus anyway. Lucas rubbed his chin, thinking. Even though he had a rough idea, he didn't start right away. Instead, he first looked online to check out the state of horror games in this parallel world. In short, not too different from his past world. Whether in film or games, horror titles rarely got big budgets. Most were small games trying to make it big. But compared to his past life, the market for pure horror games was a bit bigger here. Some single games had even sold close to 10 million copies. Of course, these were older games, heavily discounted during every holiday, and had been out for years. Interestingly, for VR horror games, which seemed like a perfect fit, not a single one existed. Because the cost of VR game development was huge. And horror games were already a niche genre. Unless someone had a deep love for horror, no one would take the risk of making one for VR. The risk was just too high. On PC, horror games fell into 2 camps: low-budget indie types. like Undertale or To the Moon, or small to mid-sized projects. After getting a good grasp of the horror game market and trends in this world, Lucas made up his mind quickly. He'd go with a small to mid-sized project. Thanks to the income from Mirror, Undertale, and To the Moon, Nebula Games had enough funding. And even though horror games were niche, that only applied when compared to big genres like FPS or RPG. If done well and it caught on, horror games could still sell big. Now the question was, what kind of game should he make? When it came to horror games, Lucas actually had quite a few directions he could take. But after thinking it over, he decided to go with Outlast as the next project. Mainly because it was a good fit. In terms of size, Outlast takes about 5 hours to finish. Of course, if you speedrun it and just follow the main path, it can be done in under an hour. Compared to other horror titles like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, or The Evil Within, Outlast had a clever twist. In this game, the player takes on the role of a reporter who can only run and hide. He can't fight back. For Lucas, Outlast was really a way to help the team get used to working together, and a chance to test the engine more deeply. As for the action and combat mechanics, those would mainly be shown through the monsters in the game. The player character would just need to run, climb, and perform basic movement. All in all, Outlast lined up well with what Lucas had in mind. The only thing he was a little worried about was the review process. Unlike Eastern-style horror games like Silent Hill or Fatal Frame, Outlast is full-on Western horror, meaning it's pretty gory. Even though the review system in this parallel world is very complete, whether it passes or not still depends on what the game division says. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like the video and comment too.